My name is Terry Ellis. I'm an independent audio reviewer from the YouTube channel and website Pursuitperfectsystem. And Elite Audio UK have asked me to take a look at, well, in a way, two different speakers that they are very excited to be offering to their customers. Initially, a black pair, which were very striking but also very difficult for me to get on camera in my pitch black Batcave listening room. So they sent me a second set in rosewood high gloss finish. And when speakers look this nice, do we really care about how they sound? Of course we do. And very interestingly, even the mother-in-law commented about how nice these speakers were. And you know what they say when the mother-in-law approves? You get the idea. Audiophysic are a German specialist high-end speaker manufacturer. And this is the second speaker from their reference line that I have reviewed. A month or so ago, I reviewed the Step 35, which is a stand mount speaker, and I was very impressed by its clarity and treble quality. And the Step 35 cost £2,295. And it feels like the Avanti 35 is probably designed to be your next model up speaker from stand mount to floor stander. But there is quite a considerable price difference, with the Avanti 35 costing £5,995. Both of these speakers are sharing audiophysics reference line technologies such as the HHCT3, the third iteration of the hyper holographic tweeter, the HHCM3, the third iteration hyper holographic mid-range driver, among lots of other interesting technologies, all with the intention of reducing unwanted resonances, like the use of ceramic foam bracing to improve the cabinet's inertness without decreasing internal volume. On the rear of the speakers are WBT speaker cable binding posts, which I think are very nice to see as they are of extremely high quality. One major difference between the Step and Avanti 35 is the invisible 8.5-inch paper subwoofer that is invisible, aka hidden, inside the speaker, which is quite a novel way of doing it because it means all you see on the outside is that lovely speaker finish. While I mentioned finish, I've got to say these are one of the nicest speakers that I have seen to date. The wood grain, the colour, and then the high gloss polish finish that is so high gloss I thought it was glass. And this is interesting because you can buy the Avanti 35 in a whole variety of different finishes, and some of them have a glass layer on the outside, such as the black pair that I initially looked at. And I assumed that this rosewood high gloss finish pair also had glass on the outside. It was only when it came time to actually put this review together and do my research that I realised it's actually two different finishes. There is actually a difference between the two. And there is actually a physical difference as well. The glass finished speakers are actually heavier. They weigh considerably more, about 5 kilograms more. One other thing that is unique about the Avanti 35 is, yes, they come with a speaker grill, but it's not a magnetic one you stick on. Instead, you remove the whole top section front cover and replace it with a whole new top section that has a grill. And I've never seen a system like this before. I think one very important thing to point out is the size. The Avanti 35 is really quite a modest sized or compact floor standing speaker. I think designed for very real world people, real world situations, real world rooms, maybe even smaller to medium sized rooms. They do have quite a steep gradient to them, which makes you feel a little uneasy that they might topple over when they are not leveled on carpet. And as always, audiophysic include a spirit bubble to help you get them level, which is very nice of them. Leveling the speakers with the spikes was easy, but I do wish the included spikes were a little longer because I had one of them on the limit, which meant I couldn't tighten the main black cover for the best aesthetics. However, I do have a particularly uneven floor where I place that speaker. So again, I think the overall size and even the weight of the Avanti 35 are again just very real world for normal audiophiles, if audiophiles could ever be classed as normal. And as a result, I found them pretty easy to move around and set up. They wasn't really fussy about placement and not really that fussy about towing either. Although too much towing I found overly saturated their sound and I lost clarity. And then I measured them as part of a full setup and full Dirac Live calibration. And very interestingly, they do have a little bit of their own character, such as a bit of a rise in the upper mid-range region between about 700 and about 1.5 kilohertz, which I think is there on purpose based on how they sound. And then there is a bit of a treble recession in the presence region. Again, I'm sure that's there on purpose. And then the treble rises a little bit towards the upper treble, which is where kind of air and space within music lives. And then there is the bass, which I found very interesting. Outside of what my room does to the sound of speakers, I was measuring bass down to about 24 hertz. Not, a massive amount of output at 24 hertz, but not in the minus decibels either. So that's a very impressive bass extension for a compact floor standing speaker. For sound quality, my initial impressions of the Avanti 35 is that they are a lively sounding speaker. Definitely not a pipe and slippers kind of speaker, if that is more of your thing. And I think they are designed to sound more live in the room, especially with the mid-range and the vocals, as opposed to maybe vocals being behind a microphone kind of sound. And they sound very dynamic in the mid-range and vocals, and this really stood out to me. Back to what I said about that rise in the frequency response, I think this is all part of that. Vocals really pop off of the background with a nice amount of space around them. They are vivid, like clear, but not analytical sounding for the most part, which is an interesting one because I think that is quite clever because it's probably quite difficult to pull off. So there is a nice leading edge to vocals, but not a clinical leading edge. Maybe somewhere around that divide depending on the system. And I found the vocals very impressive and they kept me there listening longer and had me listening to different music than I normally would. But this has been what I would call a developing review. And that is because I had 3 different hi-fi components that I'm reviewing kind of at the same time, adding one to the system and then seeing and hearing the differences, with the Avanti 35 being the first. And it was really interesting to hear how the speaker's sound developed or changed, I suppose, as these new products were entered. And you know what? I could have sat here and said to you that yes, the vocals were very lively and dynamic. However, I found them to be missing a little bit of that kind of deep, full and rich, sultry character for the music that really warrants that type of sound. I could have sat here and said that, except with the right preamplifier, DAC and power amplifier, I was able, or the Avanti 35, were able to give me, a big, sultry, rich vocals. Actually, they was able to deliver that in spades. Which leads me to say that these are very transparent sounding speakers to the hi-fi system that you put before them. Something to bear in mind. And the Avanti 35's bass is also impressive. Firstly, because it's very transparent bass, free of the speakers sounding bass. It's very tight and articulate and can sound pretty damn fatless, very start-stop fast. Bass notes are very clearly replayed. And as I mentioned, there is deep bass in music too. I did find them, or I would have sat here and said that they were maybe lacking in some upper bass presence and maybe lacking in some of that big, full, room-filling type of sound. However, when I change the hi-fi components again, their bass can sound very subwoofer-like, so big, full and rounded, very room-filling and pleasing. But it did take the right system to achieve this from them, and I think that is something potential owners should be very mindful of. And this is where I think, discussing your options with the team over at Elite Audio UK will be sensible, and obviously hearing some different options for yourself to make sure you've got the right hi-fi system to get the best out of the Avanti 35 speakers makes perfect sense. And obviously Elite Audio sent me the 3 different products for this progressive review, and you know what? All 3 of them worked together absolutely fantastically, so they might be, a great place to start your search. When I reviewed the Step 35, the star of the show for me was the tweeter, and a lot of that carries over into the Avanti 35. The treble is clean and delivered precisely, maybe not ribbon tweeter sweet, but sweet enough and lively for a soft dome. And there is not a single bit of stridency. The treble is a little overshadowed at times by the lively dynamic mid-range, and that has to be really the star of the show here, because it's probably the main sonic reason that you will buy these speakers and love them. I would prefer maybe a little more treble presence in the soundstage. Audiophysic, I think, have gone for a slightly warmer overall sound by making the treble just that little bit less present, which in different room acoustical conditions to what I have could be seen as a positive more than a negative. And I certainly didn't find the Avanti 35 punishing or being too harsh or critical on my source quality or maybe the music source or music production quality, which you can look at different ways, but I normally see that as more of a positive than a negative. And just a quick note about amplifiers. The Avanti 35 are 4-ohm speakers rated to 180 watts with a medium-ish sensitivity of 88 decibels. And I use them with two very powerful solid-state amplifiers, the more powerful of the two being the Electro Compagnie AW250R, which can deliver 380 watts into 4 ohms. And it seemed to me like the Avantis relished that extra power. They really seem to be able to come alive more and to be able to deliver the sound that they can deliver with more graceful ease and just more in a more effortless way off the end of quite a lot of power and current and just quality delivery from the amplifier. Again, I think something to bear in mind. Overall, I have been very impressed with the audiophysic Avanti 35, especially how they look, and I found myself settling in with how they sound very quickly, and I have been really enjoying listening to them. And it has been a very rewarding experience hearing how these speakers changed or have really responded to different quality hi-fi components that I've added to my system. And I always like it when a speaker is able to do that. They're able to reward you for other investments or money you might spend or just things that you can do elsewhere in the system. And I do feel like they are a speaker that has quite a lot of sound locked away, which means they could be quite a nice investment as a speaker in terms of trying to get better and better sound out of them as we own them for a period of time. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. I hope you found it useful and helpful. And if you did, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. If you'd like to see other, maybe more in-depth technical type reviews and other types of hi-fi content, then come on over and see me at the Pursuit of Perfect System YouTube channel and website. And I'm sure I'll see you all again soon. Thanks very much for watching. Take care.